On this episode, we discuss Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
With 2 times the animals. Actually, 3 times the animals. Are we sure we didn't watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3?
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
Wait, you. Sorry. It's you. Hey, you. It's the Max Fun Drive. Yep, that's right. This is the final weekend of the Max Fun Drive, if you're listening to this episode when it drops. And you still have time. It may seem like the drive is over, but you still have time. Why don't you go support our show by going to MaximumFun.org/join. Thank you. And Elliot, I believe we have an extra person here today.
We do. He was so ready to introduce himself, which was great, and we love it when people do that, except we had to get in that plug. We're joined today, of course, it's Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2. Or Part 2? Yeah, because it was the original book was too long for one movie. So
that's right, yeah. I mean, the second book was written because people just missed the message of the first Sonic book, which is that you shouldn't worship heroes.
Yeah, the first Sonic people took him too straightforwardly as a hero. So they had to write Sonic Heretic. But
God Emperor of Green Hills.
Yeah. Joining us, as you recognize, of course, we couldn't do a Sonic movie without the Flophouse Politics and Hedgehogs correspondent. That's right. New York Times writer, co-host of the Unclear and Present Danger podcast, Jamelle Bouie. Jamelle, thank you so much for joining us for another go round the Sonic franchise.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to talk hedgehogs, Sonic, anything kind of like,
You're talking about
crossing.
Sonic the restaurant, right? You like talking about the restaurant chain
That's
Sonic?
right. Also Sonic the restaurant, right? I love to get those beverages. I guess they sell hot dogs. I don't know. I've never been to a Sonic.
I've never been to one either. There was at one point where there was a flood of ads in the New York area for restaurants that you could not find in New York. Sonic, Red Rooster, or whatever it was called, and like Golden Corral. I was going to say Golden Alley, which
And you're
is
like
not it.
sitting there imagining the exotic tastes that you'll never taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's transmissions from another dimension.
But it must be so disappointing to you that in your work on the New York Times opinion page, you very rarely get to talk about hedgehogs.
It doesn't come up very often. Hedgehogs not really a part of the current political scene.
It's very disappointing.
I'd like to applaud you for your commitment to the bit, because I know for a fact that Elliot offered the possibility of a different movie, and you're like, no, we got to keep it. We got to keep going. We got to keep this train rolling.
I'm totally committed to this. If there's another Hedgehog movie that emerges, I expect to be.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna do an episode that's the whole series of the Knuckles show. I know he's not technically a hedgehog; he's an echidna, very clearly.
Yeah.
Echidna.
They saw
everything
twice before watching this movie. They were like, we have no other ads, I guess, to put in front of Sonic 2. So you want to see the Knuckles trailer again?
They ran that long.
It's a confirmation to be like, this is your final chance to just tap out.
Yeah.
They ran that long Knuckles ad during the Super Bowl, and I rarely have I been so disgusted at what is available to us as a mainstream culture nowadays than just like, I guess Adam Pally and Knuckles have a TV show together.
The buddy team up you've been waiting for.
Seems natural.
I thought him and Gabrus was good, but
certainly Knuckles is the better partner. So anyway, let's get into the movie though, because Knuckles comes after. The Knuckles TV show comes after Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's I guess the third part of the trilogy.
For God's sake, let's get this clear, because if there's one thing I care about, it's the lore of Sonic the Hedgehog. Man, boy howdy, was I watching this saying, thank Christ that they included all of this lore about Sonic.
Yeah, well,
Dan
got shit on so hard on one episode where he was complaining there wasn't enough lore in Battle Angel Alita, but now he's trying to completely retcon and rechange his character.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Dan, you thought you were getting Hedgehog lore. If you happen to watch this on Amazon Prime and you paused it, the comments, the trivia that comes up, because they always show trivia when you pause it. It was paragraphs of text about the history of the different emeralds and how they're different in the games and how Sonic started snowboarding in the games. And I was like, this is not trivia. Like this is too much. This is too much information.
Well, this is the thing, right? There really is a dense catalog of Sonic lore that, like, for all people of our general age, if you play the Genesis games or whatever, did not exist, right?
No,
then it was just sort of like, hey, this guy's super fast, and he's like cool, unlike Mario, who's lame. That was the extent of it.
Unlike Mario, who's kind of like who's a blue collar, salt of the earth, everyday American type. Sonic is like an elite. Like he's so fast. He has all those rings. But yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know if this is lore from the games, if it's lore from the cartoon show starring Jaleel White as Sonic, lore from the comic book series, which got very lore heavy. Where at one point, I think it was Knuckles, it became a living universe or something like that. I'm trying to remember, but anyway.
I feel like so much has been extrapolated from that one animation that Sonic would do if you didn't do anything for a while. He would like tap his foot annoyed, and you're like, so many people are like, this is a cool dude.
This guy's got attitude.
Yeah.
We need to make sure everybody understands that he has a background.
I did do some I say the mildest of mild research. I glanced at it until I got bored, which was almost immediately, to discover that, a lot of this stuff is drawn from the games. And like Jamelle, like I had, my relationship was like, oh, that guy's cool. He goes fast. I didn't know that there was any story behind it.
You might as well have lore about the dog in Duck Hunt. Like, that's how I feel about it. Yeah. This is barely a character usually. But as we know, Dan is very interested in the post-game lore in which Sonic has a baby.
That's what I'm fascinated with.
Yeah, when Sonic is pregnant. Yeah.
It's Shrek's child, right? That's my understanding.
Yeah, eventually it's either Shrek or the green M&M. If they can't figure out who the paternity is. So let's get into the movie, though. The movie doesn't cover Sonic being pregnant. I guess they're saving that for the third movie after the Knuckles show.
And we watched the first one of these, right?
We did.
Yes, we did, with Jamelle. Jamelle was here for it. Yeah.
Okay, I kind of remember that.
So the Paramount logo, it's a special movie because they changed it. It's got rings instead of stars around the mountain. And there's just one logo I want to point out. One of the production companies is called Original Film, which I thought was pretty rich for the sequel to a movie based on a video game, to have a company called Original Film making it. Anyway, we start on the Mushroom Planet. How do we know it's the Mushroom Planet, everybody?
Wait a minute, this isn't Mario?
Well, that's what I was... Is this a knock at Mario? Is this a little swipe being like, oh, no worse punishment than be trapped in a kingdom of mushrooms?
Very possible.
I was thinking about that. I know the last movie does end with Dr. Robotnik. Is that Dr. Robotnik being sent to a mushroom planet? I'm not really sure. And I was expecting some sort of Mario dig, but I didn't see one.
Yeah. They seem to just take it for granted that, mushroom planets are bad. And the text, the mushroom planet, appears on screen. Later on, we'll see Seattle will appear on screen. And then the movie will give up on telling us the locations of things. They just don't care after that, even though we then spend most of the movie in Montana and Hawaii rather than, it's Montana, right? The Green Hills. Who cares? Anyway, it's all made up. So we open. There's an elaborate Rube Goldberg device that makes bad tasting mushroom coffee for Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey. He's been exiled there. It's day 243, and he's built a machine.
And he's just like doing his thing, right? Like Jim Carrey's just like falling into that that safe zone of being really like wacky. Man, what a children's entertainer this guy was. Right?
I said it about the first movie. As a kid of the 90s, there's something very comforting about seeing Jim Carrey do Jim Carrey stuff. And so throughout the movie, seeing him do like funny things with his body or go like, like extend syllables out really long.
It's like you're back in 1994 and he cranked out 3 of the biggest hits.
Yeah. Schindler's List, Forrest Gump. Well, Schindler's List was 1993. Forrest Gump.
That was
Shawshank Redemption.
The Mask, and what's the other one? Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
All one year. That's bonkers.
That was his Annus Mirabilis. For Jim Carrey. And so he's built a machine that I'm not exactly sure how it works, but it sends out a bolt of energy which causes alien warriors from another world to open a portal. His traps take out those warriors before he can step through the portal and escape the mushroom planet. Knuckles walks through, voiced, of course, by famed animation voice actor Idris Elba.
Yeah,
he was apparently a big fan, so he was excited to do the role.
Yeah, I had no idea walking in that this was Idris Elba, and I was like, what is this sort of bizarrely, sort of for a cartoon character, low energy voice? It sounds kind of like, is that Idris Elba? And lo and behold, there he is, Mr.
Thank you for
The
walking
Wire
us through that
himself.
thought process.
Hey,
That process of discovery was as fascinating to hear about as it was to live, I'm sure.
If the Flophouse is nothing, it's sort of just an invitation inside our brains. And sometimes you come and knocking and there's not much there.
I'm curious. Is Idris like a big Sonic fan? Is he like a lore guy? Does he know the whole deal? Or
that's what he said.
They always say that.
I didn't see him get quizzed on it.
There's an actor in one of these. I mean, except for Scarlet Witch, I guess. There's very few or Madam Web. There's very few actors where the actress is like, or actor is like, I don't know. I don't care. I don't know who these characters are. Like, I don't know. They're always like, yeah, well, I've always wanted to play Gambit. I've always, ever since I was a kid, I've dreamed of playing Flash Thompson.
Just being like, hey, I'm an actor, man. This is my job.
There was that on Twitter. I remember people Marvel fans were up in arms because Taika Waititi was like, yeah, when I took that Thor gig, that was for money. I had to make money to feed my family. And they were like, you didn't do it for the love of Thor? Hold on a second. Like, the idea that actors have to be huge fans of the material before they're even in it is bonkers. But maybe Idris Elba is. I don't know. Maybe he's a huge fan of Sonic. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're listening.
I completely agree with everyone that no one should have to be a fan of these things, but it would be really funny if Idris was like, yeah, and I did this deep dive into Zanga to like really do some research on Sonic. Deviant art.
Yeah, there's some deviant art out there that posits some interesting fan theories.
Idris kept bringing notes to the set that there should be a love scene between Knuckles and Sonic.
It's just like, this doesn't make sense. The script doesn't make sense. There's no sex scene.
So
I do have to say, Knuckles, first off, Knuckles is an echidna, which I saw many of when I was in Australia, and they do not look like him.
No, they
don't. The second thing is, I do love that he has a custom pair of Timbs on. They are not available for sale. I looked around, but they are very cool.
Okay, but you're right. He does not really look like an echidna, but Sonic doesn't really look like a hedgehog either. So that's that. We're in a world where it doesn't matter as much. Then we cut to Seattle. There's an armored car robbery in the offing. Sonic, of course, has to get involved and be a hero. There's only one song that makes sense for Sonic's attempt to be a hero. It's Tricky. So, of course, that's what's playing on the soundtrack. As he caused a lot of damage, the driver of the armored car keeps being like, "You're terrible at this," because everyone in movies nowadays has to be constantly kibitzing on everything that happens. And he only avoids running over a child by speedily disassembling the entire truck as it's going forward.
I kind of like
it's kind of a funny bit. It's a funny bit. Yeah. But he fails to be a good superhero. He runs all the way back to Green Hills, Montana, I think. It's either Montana or Missouri, where he briefly looks at a feather from his dead owl mom, Longclaw, who he misses. and
my brain is already shutting down.
This was established in the first movie. He wants to go to bed, but he has plans to go fishing that day with Tom, James Marsden, who, when we're recording this episode, is not quite the favorite of the internet that he once was, for various reasons we don't need to get into here. But
Elliot, I just want to jump in here now. You breezed past two jokes that are like classic Elliot Kalin hates these jokes.
Oh,
while on the mushroom planet, Jim Carrey says, like, holy shiitake or something.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And then Sonic later, before crashing into a ice cream truck, says, like, holy sherbet.
Yeah, he
both
says
of those
holy
less
sherbet.
5 minutes apart. It's perfect. That is like classic Elliot Kalin jokes.
Don't
worry. There's more sherbet like that coming up.
It's true. Well, I'd be lying if I said I thought this was a funny movie. Like, occasionally there was a joke where I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But for the most part, I found it not very funny. I don't like it. So James Marsden takes Sonic fishing. Sonic is so tired, he falls out of the boat. Tom has to save him. And Tom tells Sonic, I know you went to Seattle. Stop playing superhero. You're just putting people in danger. And Sonic goes, you're supposed to be my friend, not my dad. And Tom goes, you're still a kid. You don't choose the moment to be a hero. The moment chooses you. And it's like, how old is Sonic supposed to be?
Well,
I really
also,
can't figure it out.
He says you're supposed to be a friend, not my dad, but it seems pretty much like they have adopted Sonic as their child. Like, it is a family unit, and this is they refer to him as being just a kid over and over again. I don't know what that means in outer space.
But like, is he 16 or is he 10 or is he 5?
This is something I was wondering about the entire time as well, because I feel like this wasn't in the first movie. It wasn't sort of like implied at all that Sonic was a child. But here, I mean, they referred to him as their kid.
Yeah. It's like Poor Things.
That's what
it's exactly the same.
So you say Sonic again was pregnant, makes sense, took the brain out of the baby Sonic, put it in Sonic's body.
Wow. Yep.
Now we get it. I mean, That's what happens in that movie, Dan.
No, I know. I'm just
I didn't write
extrapolating it
Poor
out.
Things. I'm not Yorgos Lanthimos. I didn't make up. Poor Things is based on a novel anyway.
So you're saying that in the third act, Shrek is going to show up and take Sonic back and
based on the novel
prison him in a mansion.
Oh, this is me. This is my wife, Sonic. Come back to me now. Oh, it turns out he's shooting people all the time. Terrible. Yeah. Okay. So some Flophouse fan, please make the Poor Things Sonic Shrek poster. I guess. Anyway.
You were just trying to do a Shrek? I was really confused by the accent, Elliot.
No, I can't.
You felt sort of Swedish more than.
I wasn't trying that hard, to be honest. So Tom and his wife Maddie, they're going to Maddie's.
Shrek.
They're going to Maddie's sister Rachel's wedding in Hawaii. Luckily, you don't have to fly when you've got ring portals that Sonic can make, and so much time is put into this wedding. And
go on.
Sonic makes a ring portal for them. And he gives them another ring to make a return home portal. That seems like it's not important, but this is a perfectly written screenplay. So of course that ring is going to come back when we least expect it. And Sonic, he's home alone. He does a lot of kid Home Alone stuff. He's goofing off. He's eating junk food, making a mess.
A lot of kid Home Alone stuff. So he listens to exclusively like 90s hip hop.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, his like every single movie made right now, every single human being's musical and movie frame of reference is that of someone who grew up in the 1980s and 1990s. That is entirely it. Later on, Adam Pally will make a very gratuitous reference to Ghostbusters that I also did not enjoy. I thought was unnecessary. But anyway, Sonic has a foam party by himself. It seems like is this like this is? Do you guys enjoy any of this stuff?
This movie is 2 hours long, and I would argue that at least an hour of it is cuttable. Like this movie makes
not
room
the wedding
for,
though. I like the wedding stuff.
Well, what would you cut? The dance battle?
The dance battle, the inexplicably long dance battle. We
haven't even gotten to that yet.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to Sonic, a portal opens the outskirts of town, and who comes out? Not Knuckles. Jamelle, you're Sonic fan number one. Were you excited when you saw Tails, that's right, Sonic's best friend, show up?
Yes, I was hugely excited. I can't wait to learn more about this double-tailed fox. I got nothing, guys.
Why does he?
His name is Miles Prower. Dan, do you get it?
Miles Prower.
Oh.
Yep.
Well,
that's Carmen Sandiego level name writing. Yeah.
I don't think we actually
criminal or something.
In fairness to the writers of this movie, that he's been Miles Tails Prower since Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in 1993.
Yep.
I want to say that
Thanks for the New York Times fact check on Sonic the Hedgehog names.
No,
that's why they pay me.
they went one direction for the voice of Knuckles, of course. They got
got
Elba
One Direction to do the voice of Knuckles.
Okay.
Collectively, like a singular entity.
Yeah. All of One Direction together makes one Idris Elba. No, they went in one. They went one way with the voice of Knuckles, but Tails is, according to my research, the Tails from the games. This is the same voice actress who does Tails, which is why, on the one hand, Idris Elba is giving, he's like, I like him later on when like they use his sort of gruffness for comic effect, but it's not like a high energy thing. But
once he becomes a comedy character, he pays off. But before then, yeah.
But she is giving the most voice actory performance, and I'm like, this has to just be like some, and it's weird because I'm like usually pro voice actors, but in this case, I'm like, this just sounds like kind of every like Saturday morning cartoon I grew up with, and we don't ever learn anything about Tails other than that they love Sonic.
We learned quite a bit about Tails later on. So meanwhile, we go to Tails flies out. We go to Hawaii. Tom meets Rachel's very handsome fiance Randall.
So this actor seemed incredibly handsome when I first saw him, but the longer I looked at him, he looked weirder to me. His beard is so weird. He has the tightest little beard.
I had that experience. I can't say I had
it was like confusing my brain a little bit. It's like the fight scenes in the new Roadhouse, which while I was watching it, I'm like, my brain isn't functioning. Bodies don't move like this. I don't know what's happening.
Was it like an Uncanny Valley thing?
Yes, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I guess I could see it. Well, with this, I guess it's a little bit like when someone first pointed out to me how long the distance is between Bruce Willis's nose and his upper lip, and now I can't see it. Just how
You
ridiculously
just ruined my
long it is.
day, Elliot. Now I have to go look this up.
It's just longer than you remember it being. And Rachel is like, Tom. She remembers that she got in trouble with Sonic in the first movie. She's like, Tom, if you wreck my wedding, I will end him. This is the beginning. End you. This is the beginning of a lot of wedding talk in this. At Sonic's house, Robotnik shows up with Knuckles. Knuckles punches Sonic a bunch, and he says his Echidna tribe were the enemies of the tribe that Longclaw belonged to. Tails drives up in a police car and slams into Knuckles and is like, Sonic, I'll help you escape. And as Knuckles chases them on foot while they're in the car, Tails introduces himself and explains that Knuckles wants the legendary Master Emerald. Knuckles doesn't say this himself. Tails has to bring this information in. And Tails is a real Sonic fan, a real Sonic otaku, and keeps saying stuff like, only Sonic the Hedgehog would do this, about stuff that is not Sonic specific. Like Tails starts flying and Sonic goes, did your butt turn into a helicopter? And Tails goes, only Sonic the Hedgehog could think of a butt copter. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Only Sonic the Hedgehog could save this thing when it's not that Sonic specific, you know.
Elliot, how did you feel about the introduction of an all-powerful emerald that everyone wanted to get?
I mean, it comes from the games, so I guess I have to allow it. But certainly, it seems like it was dropped into our laps in a non-organic way. But I did like one thing. I did like the movie did not start with 5 emeralds were put together by the Echidna clan. They wanted a powerful way. Like, there's no opening voiceover prophecy. Instead, there's a middle of the movie voiceover explanation. But I was glad the movie didn't open like that. So yeah. But how did you feel about a giant emerald being the MacGuffin that they're looking for?
My struggle with this film, and look,
okay,
I would like to put it out there into the world. I understand not all art is for me, and certainly not maybe a child's movie about a game that I played only the first version of. Maybe
you were more of an
that's
Echo the Dolphin fan.
Sure. Yeah. But I could not latch into anything about this movie. We were like texting a little bit about it and joking about how there's all that stuff about the wedding. I'm like, at least that stuff I could have my hooks into some sort of human stakes that I understood. Like here, like just like them all chasing around an emerald that everyone wants for some reason. And I guess it's bad that Dr. Robotnik gets it because he's a bad guy and it's a powerful thing. But I'm like, I don't give a shit about any of this, and thus the movie does not engage.
What you're saying is it hurt your ability to really get invested in it, that we never really know what the emerald does or why it is or why Knuckles wants it or why anyone cares about it or why it's on Earth or why Longclaw cared about it or any of those or how Sonic was supposed to protect it. Any of those things that hurt your investment?
I mean, at the time, because
fundamental stakes questions, yes.
And maybe. The powers that the emerald would grant was left up to the imagination until later when we see them actually work. So you don't really know what you're facing. What they should have done is like most modern horror movies, they should have somebody with the emerald like murder somebody real gross right at the beginning. You're like, oh wow, so that's scary. Well, I mean, so you're scared the rest of the movie.
I mean, but that is a way of setting up the stakes of what's going on. It's like I remember years ago I saw a talk that cartoonist Evan Dorkin gave at the to the NYU Science Fiction Club, and he was like, "There's always the cop that runs up to the monster in the movie so that you can find out what the monster's powers are." And it's like, yeah, that's true. You always got to show off what the monster's powers are, and here we don't know what it is. So, Jamelle, but you may feel differently. You love movies about emeralds, right? So
that's
you
right.
Like,
yeah. If I look to my left, I see my movie shelf, and it's just filled with movies about emeralds: green emeralds, red emeralds, yellow emeralds.
There's Romancing the Stone, other ones, I'm sure.
I mean, there's I'm sure there's been a movie that Emerald, the chef, has been in at some point.
You've got your Emerald Fennell section, which is not...
Emerald Fennell section, which is what, 2 movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that section.
Oh, great.
That's a filmmaker I enjoy.
Wow.
It's funny. This movie like kind of exactly replicates the problem with the first movie, which is that like it's weird that this takes place on Earth and among humans. Like, yes. I don't understand. Like, if this movie, if the Sonic movies are for kids and it's like all lore, it's like so much lore, then why not just like have it be in Sonic realm? Like, why does there need to be like actual human beings around for this? Because it's like, like you, Dan, I actually kind of enjoyed the wedding section, but it's also like super weird. It's like why is there like this wedding, almost like Wedding Crashers B plot happening in this children's movie?
It seems very strange that so much time is being spent on Tom's feelings of inadequacy around his sister-in-law's fiance's friends, who are all super buff. And there's a part where they're like showing each other their biceps. And James Marsden obviously is also a guy who works out. The idea that he's like a weakling,
shredded.
But
he was Cyclops.
But it was exactly, he was Cyclops, the strongest of the X-Men.
I wish in the movie his wife had been like, "Honey, don't worry, you were Cyclops."
Okay, you were Cyclops. You
don't have to prove anything to anyone.
So, guys, were you guys? So, when I was watching the wedding stuff, in addition to being very excited about it, I was really wondering. Like, Natasha Rothwell filmed this probably shortly after filming the first season, The White Lotus. Now, both of those were shot in 4 seasons, one in Oahu and one in Maui. Like, do you think she's got a lot of really good 4 seasons points? Like, do you think she gets a lot of bennies when she checks in?
Burning question. We got
That's a very Stewart way of looking at the situation. Yeah.
What are her bennies?
And those are the questions that the filmmakers want you to be asking while you're watching. That shows they set it up right.
I want to say, though, Jamelle, I had a very similar feeling towards the end when it's like we're watching 3 CGI animated animals fight a big robot. And I'm like, why wasn't this all just like animated? Why wasn't this an animated film? Why did they feel like they needed to like do the quote unquote live action Sonic?
It's the thing. It feels very classic to me in some ways though, because this is the way they would have done this movie in the 80s or early 90s. Like this is the Masters of the Universe version of doing this.
But he would have been a guy in a costume or like a puppet.
Yeah,
he would have been a puppet. He would have looked like Munchie or something like that.
I would. If this were a guy in a costume, 5 stars instantly.
It would have been like an animatronic face and like, but it would have been a Howard the Duck essentially. I mean, that's what Howard the Duck is.
Yeah, the 5 stars.
I instantly like it more. Yeah, this is okay. Anyway, so
and Jim Carrey is kind of giving a Jeffrey Jones and Howard the Duck style performance.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's also a Jim Carrey style performance, but it's big. It's a big performance. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what came first, the chicken or the egg man?
He did it. Oh,
great. That was. It makes
Bruce Willis's head. You said
it makes me glad I have repeatedly not done the Lorax joke that I was going to do up to this point because it wouldn't have been able to compete with that wordplay.
Hey, so you're probably asking, what is the Max Fun Drive? Now, the Max Fun Drive just wrapped up or is wrapping up this weekend, but there's still time to act. And I'm going to tell you for a moment what the Max Fun Drive is all about. Now, the Max Fun Drive is the one time a year where we, the creators of these shows, come to you, the listeners of these shows, and say, please, why don't you support us with your hard-earned money? And why do we ask that? It's because that's the primary way our shows make money. You know, we get to make the show that we want without having any interference from some corporate overlords. I don't know if you are sick of things just constantly being regurgitated onto your streaming services. Well, we get to make whatever we want. And the big reason we're able to do that is because we are supported through money from you. And that's a big deal. I know my co-host, Dan Elliott, struggle with that kind of stuff all the time in their day jobs.
I mean, if I had a day job currently, that would be a thing I struggle with. But it's a great advantage of the Max Fun Drive is you get to sort of put your money where your mouth is when it comes to supporting the stuff that you like directly as possible.
Mm-hmm. And then we get to take that money and use it to do things like, I don't know, hire friends of ours to be the editor of the show, hire friends of ours to design artwork for the show.
And that sounds like nepotism.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like being able to spend money on people that are important to you is good and support art.
And we don't hoard that money. We're not using it to buy back dividends of Flophouse stock or anything like that. Or
I could be doing that?
Or give huge bonuses to executives. We use it to make this show. We use it to support ourselves so that we can live, but also to make this show and to support other artists who either collaborate with us on the show or are just in the
That's a
in the
much
universe of great
nicer
stuff.
way of putting it than I did. Now, you're probably wondering at this point, you're like, how do I support a show like yours financially? Well, you want to go over to MaximumFun.org/join. And what you can do is, if you're not a supporter yet, you can join. If you join at the $5 a month level or more, that actually grants you access to our entire catalog of bonus content, hours and hours of additional material. If you're already a member, you can actually upgrade, and that'll give you access to some of the other bonus items, some additional cool toys, things that the network had put together this year. Swag is what we call it, just general swag. And you can also, if you can't reach the next tier, you're also able to boost your monthly support, which is great.
Which could be nice if, like, say you started listening to another Max Fun show, you don't have enough money to jump up in your donations to the next tier, but you're like, you know what? Because I'm listening to multiple things, let me just knock it up a little bit.
And they Max Fun is also there for you to give you the option to either support monthly, or if you'd rather do it all in one lump sum, they also provide the option to do it annually, so you don't have to think about it throughout the year. So why don't you please go and support our show? If you've listened to this much nonsense already, I think it's time to support it. So why don't you head over to MaximumFun.org/join and support us today.
So anyway, we get this is a sequel to a modern movie, so of course every single character from the earlier movies has to come back. So of course we see Robotnik's Smithers-style assistant Stone, who runs a coffee shop in Green Hills. Though, was it clear to you guys that that's where it was located early on?
Not really.
To me, it was not. I didn't know where it was, and then suddenly Adam Pally showed up at this coffee shop, and I'm like, oh, so it's been in the same town as Sonic all this time. I didn't realize that.
They didn't give you a location card like the first two locations of the movie, so I could see why you'd be confused.
How can I know?
Did anyone know? There's a shot, I think later in the movie, where you see the coffee shop's sanitation grade or whatever. It's F-. I thought that was funny.
That was great. That was a great joke.
Well, no, he like closes. He switches from open to closed. He switches the grade from A to F-. And I thought that was
Because he doesn't want people to come in. Because he's turning it into a villain HQ when he finds out that Robotnik is back. He sends a spaceship to bring Robotnik an army of robots and a coat. He needs a new coat. And Robotnik makes a deal with Knuckles. They're going to work together to find the emerald and destroy Sonic. So Sonic takes Tails to Wade's house. Wade is Adam Pally, Tom's loser coworker. And Sonic has a map from his mom, and the map decides at this moment to project a hologram of Longclaw that explains what the Master Emerald is and why it's on Earth, and it has the powers to turn thoughts into reality. It's the kind of thing where you're like, so this was not something that the map felt the need to inform Sonic about before this moment. This was just, the map was waiting for someone to say Master Emerald around it or something like that. And this is when they cut to a close-up of Wade, and he goes, like the Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters. And I was like, movie, enough. I don't need any more 80s movies telling me how to understand modern movies. Like, just stop. Like, it's the same, it triggered the same reaction in me as in The Flash when they were like, oh yeah, because Back to the Future, blah, blah, blah. It's like, can I have a different frame of reference for anything in life that is not that's not movies from the 1980s? Guys, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm a curmudgeon.
Well, I think that you were wrong in The Flash, because I do think that Back to the Future is still kind of a standard way of thinking about time travel, but here it comes out of nowhere. I agree.
It's part of the collective culture, Elliot, where we all absorb similar information.
There was a time when the collective culture, it covered everything from Howdy Doody to William Shakespeare, and now it just seems to be movies that came out between 1982 and 1992.
If Howdy Doody or William Shakespeare dealt with time travel, maybe we would talk about The Flash.
William Shakespeare did deal with time travel in The Tempest.
The Tempest.
Shut up.
My problem is, like, okay, you say that the Emerald can make thoughts real or whatever. Then why is Robotnik's plan later on just to like have a big robot that goes around smashing things? It seems like he's unstoppable.
And then when he loses the emerald, the robot
mecha?
stays fine.
Like, that wouldn't be your first wish, is to have a giant mecha so you can do a mecha battle?
You're unstoppable. You don't have to like fight people with a robot. You can have the robot if you want it, you know?
Well, pointing to the only frame of reference that exists, media from the mid to 80s to early 90s.
Okay.
In the Infinity Gauntlet series, Thanos gets the Infinity Gauntlet, and it takes him time to get used to being a god. And so first he's thinking in the way a mortal would think, and he's doing mortal things. He's fighting hand to hand rather than just snapping his enemies out of existence. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah.
It's a process.
There's a learning curve. Okay.
Dan, when you get the Master Emerald and you have godlike power, let me see how fast you get used to it. You understand how to harness it.
I've been waiting for that emerald.
What are you going to do with that emerald, Dan? What is the first thing you're going to do?
I don't know, man. World peace. What do we? What? And then like after that's done, I'll attend to my own needs. Just hang out.
What?
Hang out.
Like a
So one
hammock.
world peace, two butts. That's
Yeah.
basically the way it goes. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm afraid of any kind of unlimited power, wealth, because I can see I'm an immediate path on like the Howard Hughes train.
Just you and your Emerald DVDs just sitting there all alone in a room.
Jars full of emerald colored piss.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're drinking nothing but Shamrock shakes. Eating at the
Yeah. I feel like I do
They haven't made those in years. We have to make them. Jamelle says, Mr. Bouie says that's all he'll drink.
I feel like if I got one of these emeralds, I'd go straight to like Bezos land and like try and turn myself into Pitbull, basically.
I mean, you're doing pretty good already.
Thank you.
Stuart.
That's what I was fishing for.
Yeah, my goals are a little less ambitious. I say to my wife all the time, I'm like, if I was rich, I could get the things that I want to get. And she's like, well, what do you want to get? And I'm like, well, there's this person who's selling an ichthyosaurus skeleton on eBay, and I've really wanted it for a long time, and I want to make it into a coffee table.
Yeah, you'd be
Like,
drowning in ichthyosaurus skeletons.
I just need the one. But anyway, there's also a Triceratops skull that someone's selling. It's very expensive. So, and Longclaw was like, it was my job to protect the Master Emerald. Now it's your job, Sonic. It's hidden on Earth. And he goes, I'm not going to let you down, Mom. The map says they need a compass to find the emerald. Seems like an unnecessary extra step. They already have a map. The compass is in Siberia. Tails is afraid to go, and Sonic is like, I'll protect you. Meanwhile, in Hawaii, Tom is so intimidated by Randall and his friends, and Tom is like, I wish Sonic had close friends. And he entertains the ring bearer, a little girl, with a disappearing ring magic trick. Tom, that's going to be a mistake down the line.
Yeah.
Siberia, Sonic and Tails are lost in a storm. They take shelter inside a tough Russian saloon. And Tails is like, I'm an inventor. I've got all these gadgets. I've been monitoring you, Sonic, all the time using my gadgets. And meanwhile, Robotnik and Knuckles are tracking them through Sonic's phone at this time. Tails has a translation machine, but it doesn't work right. It accidentally translates what they're saying into rude Russian sayings and offends everybody. So they have to have a dance battle with some mean-looking Russians.
Yep.
And they win by completely cheating. They use Tails' gadgets to create like a hologram field of other Tailses. They dance to Uptown Funk. This goes on for a very long time.
Every once in a while, like
it's
that.
cheating to dance to Uptown Funk?
The what?
It's cheating to dance to Uptown Funk?
Yeah,
I feel like a
there's
lot
too much
of
funk.
wedding
It's
receptions.
always
too much
cheating.
fun. Yeah.
Uptown Funk is scientifically designed to get everybody
It's
to
gonna
dance. It's a song
get
that I
groovy.
don't like, but I have to dance to it. You have to, scientifically, yeah.
I just wanted to say, like,
You
every
lose
once in a
control of
while,
body and soul, which is a different song, but it describes what happens when you listen to Uptown Funk.
There's a sight gag that works for me, just like the F- one. Like, there's one here that I enjoyed where like it's them looking around the room, and like one person has like a knife, and they're like, and like another person is scared, and like, and then like look over at like a woman knitting, and they're like, phew, and then she holds up what she's knitting, and it's a skull and crossbones.
That's a good joke.
That was a good joke. That was
Give
a
you
good gag.
credit to the Sonic team.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that one.
They did. And then later she holds that knitted skull up like a mask when they're all intimidating them. So that was very funny. They win the dance contest. Tails is grateful to have a friend. His double tails, they made him an outcast at home. But seeing Sonic and seeing how weird Sonic is made him feel, hey, there's a friend for me out there. And so that's why Tails decided to go find Sonic. The next day.
Randy Newman comes in and sings a song about it, and then,
Yeah, because you got two tails on you. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for Tail Story. That's the movie you wrote that for. Start featuring Buzz Lightyear. And anyway,
man. Can he keep going?
I can't. That's all I got.
Yeah. That was pretty good, though.
Produced by John Asseter. Anyway, so the next day they find the magical cave. There's carvings everywhere that tell the backstory of the Master Emerald and how the Echidnas made it and the Longclaws hit it. And as a viewer right now, I was like, yeah, I got it. Like, I don't need to know that. This is not helpful. But they animated it in a cool style. It was done in like a cool animated style. Anyway.
Okay.
They get the magic compass from an owl statue, but then Robotnik and Knuckles ambush them. This turns into a snowboarding laser chase, just like in the video games. Were you guys excited to see Sonic snowboarding, just like in the video games? Right, guys?
Yeah, anything extreme, man.
I didn't know he snowboarded.
Is that? Yeah, I didn't either, actually.
He snowboards in. I joke that I don't know anything about Sonic, but here I am. He snowboards, I believe, in the Sonic Adventure games.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's not like Sonic Sports or something like that, because Mario, he'll do anything. He'll do any kind of game. Sports, puzzles. He said he was a
pretend to be a
doctor for a little while.
doctor.
Yeah, that was not cool.
Yeah, people really question that one. We feel like, Mario, what, like, why are you prescribing these pills? Where are you getting this stuff from? Where's it coming from?
Man, still, today, the best soundtrack of a video game is the soundtrack for Dr. Mario.
I don't know if I'd say best, but it's up there. It's right up there with Tetris and Mega Man 2, for sure. Anyway, snowboard chase. During it, Knuckles reveals that his father died in the same battle that Longclaw died in, and Sonic is like, oh, we both lost everything. Robotnik steals the compass and hurts Tails. I don't remember how. Maybe he hits him in the head with a hammer. Maybe he shoots him with a laser. I don't remember. Yeah. Sonic goes to help Tails, not to chase Robotnik. And this impresses Knuckles for a moment. And the bad guys escape, and an avalanche is about to bury our heroes. So they're snowboarding ahead of this avalanche. He calls Tom, which interrupts the wedding. He's like, use my portal ring to make a portal. Uh-oh. Tom doesn't have the portal ring in his pocket. He has the groom's ring. He switched the rings by accident when he did that magic trick. So he has to go and get the ring in the middle of the wedding ceremony. He can't explain to them, I am the dad of an extra-dimensional blue hedgehog and I need to open a portal.
But there is something that he can explain. And this made me so mad because he's just like, all he does is like, can I see the ring? I really need to see the ring. Could you just give me the ring? Like, and I'm like, you have the other ring that you switched out.
Just say, I accidentally mixed this up.
This is the wrong one. You want yours, right?
I was taking to get it appraised.
Yeah.
Yes, instead of saying, I'm sorry, I just realized I was performing a magic trick and I accidentally mixed up your ring with another, he just won't tell them and then punches Randall to get the ring, which, again,
a worse solution, I would argue.
Yeah. You guys, I kind of wish that the wedding had happened slightly, like they completed the wedding entirely before all these shenanigans happened, and that like the portal had appeared on somebody's hand. I thought that would have been way better.
And a Cronenbergian body horrors,
or the honeymoon night. Like they're in bed for their
especially with the twist that is coming up. I wish that all of this had been revealed. The shenanigans happened after the wedding. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, you just wanted to see that wedding go through without a hitch. Oh, the revelations we get. Yeah. Well, the revelations make you wonder how far this wedding was going to go. So we'll get to there. But they open up a portal. An avalanche comes out. It wrecks the wedding. Doesn't really hurt anybody. So I guess Sonic didn't need help that badly. But maybe it's just a portion of the snow came through. Randall, his groomsmen, and the officiant, now that Sonic is there, they reveal that they are all federal agents set to capture Sonic as part of Operation Catfish. Because the easiest way to capture Sonic when you are a federal agent with law enforcement power is to get into a relationship with Sonic's aunt and then date for months,
presumably
plan a wedding.
Sleeping together several times.
Right, right, exactly.
They did not strike me as a chaste couple. They struck me as a couple that would give in to their physical hunger. Yeah. You know, they seemed fun. They seemed to really love each other.
Their physical hunger is a very funny way of putting it.
Look, I think about sex the way I think about Snickers. There's a hunger inside you, and there's a hunger inside me. Yeah.
I'm going to totally slip that into my therapy session later today.
So they just the fact that they had to send out invitations and all that, they had to put seating arrangements together, I assume, for this operation. And Rachel, understandably, is livid. She has been used. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And Sonic and Tom and Tails get captured. Luckily, Rachel and Maddie, the Sonic's mom, adopted mom, they find Tails' backpack full of gadgets and they use it to save Sonic and Tom and Tails in various ways. We don't need to talk about all those gadgets. Randall feels guilty about tricking Rachel, and the federal agent leader is like, we had to do this. Come on. She goes after them for revenge using like a laser, and when the lead agent tries to tase her, Randall leaps in front of it and gets tased instead, and he admits that he does love her, and they kiss. And I was like, again, this is, in some ways this is the most... This is the stuff that's most like kind of understandable on a human level, but why is it in a Sonic the Hedgehog movie? Like I don't understand. But it's how far were they going to go? Because the wedding was almost over. They were putting rings on each other's fingers.
I'm also genuinely curious about the bureaucracy behind this one. Like, who signed off on this? Right? Like this is, and presumably, right? Like Sonic, extraterrestrial being, immense power. Like this isn't, this is the FBI, I guess. So it's like it's not just
it's a new organization called Gun.
Gun.
That I think is international.
International, because if it's like federal, it's like, okay, let's just say they're ATF agents. So I guess they report to the Secretary of Homeland Security. But like if we're dealing with extraterrestrials, that's like going to the president. So it was like this was filmed in so it was like Biden, sort of like
yep.
And this is why we need
Dan, do that Joe Biden impression you've been trying on. You were just showing to me. Should I get the ice cream?
Malarkey.
This is why Jamelle is our Hedgehog correspondent, because only you know the hierarchy that they have to talk to get these kinds of operations off the ground. So let's take a moment. We don't have a lot of time, but let's take a moment to just say, okay, there's an alien hedgehog on Earth. How does the federal government react to this? Like, what legally can they do? How does it go up the chain of command? What do you think would happen?
Well, I think Dan had it about right. A piece of paper goes to the president, and he either signs it hell yeah or malarkey, and then that just authorizes or denies whatever operation they have. Yeah, stamps.
And is this under? I mean, it can't be the Secretary of Defense, right? Because they can't operate. The Army's not supposed to operate in domestically, right?
So this would either be the FBI or some Homeland Security agency. Either way, the president. Although if it's the FBI, the president isn't like directly involved. But like either
it's the
way,
Justice Department.
Yeah. There's some technical separation there.
And now they just released that report. The government just released a report basically being like, all those UFO sightings, they weren't UFOs. Do you think this falls under that? Like, is there some kind of like extraterrestrial intelligence gathering operation that would be like, we were wrong, the aliens do exist and they're blue hedgehogs that want to be superheroes and love 80s and 90s pop music? That would send tremors through the government, right?
Maybe. Okay, so this just reminded me. The funny thing about that UFO report is, you know who was like really adamant that the government release whatever it knew about UFOs? Late, but former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid was like, we got to get this stuff out. We got to get this stuff out to the public. We got to let the people know.
So that my understanding of that was that he had like one big donor who in Nevada who was like aliens, and he's like, keep the campaign money coming, and I'll get some aliens. Because also like Marco Rubio was pretty big on this too at a certain point, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, you're right. Harry Reid's big thing. It was like with his dying breath, he was like, "Tell them about the aliens.
Tell them about the hedgehog."
It can't be a secret. And you have to assume. And so how would, break it down for me before we move on, how would liberals and conservatives, how would they differ in their feelings about the hedgehog? What would their takes be?
That's a good question.
I mean, does this go under open
he's
borders,
blue,
sort of?
So, Republicans might be like,
Dabu dee, dabu die.
Yeah, dabu dee, dabu die, indeed.
That would be enough for them not to like him right there. Yeah.
So he'd be like a lib hedgehog.
Yeah.
Because it's revealed at the end of the movie, Shadow the Hedgehog has been in cold storage, and he's red.
Yeah. So he'd be the one they were after.
Yeah, he's like the MAGA hedgehog.
I see. So there's a MAGA hedgehog, and Sonic would be like the Brandon hedgehog, I guess.
But like Sonic always carries the baby to term, right? So they should like him for that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sonic is pro-life. That's right. Yeah.
If they can hate...
Based on these memes I have saved in my hidden folder.
If they can hate a blonde white lady who is dating a professional football player, then they can hate anybody, Stuart.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I don't know who's in charge of all this, hedgehog wrangling in the government. All I know is that according to my bumper sticker, the government should have a bake sale to fund it, because I don't want my tax dollars going towards that.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah. So Knuckles and Robotnik, they follow the compass to where the Emerald is, an island that very helpfully is within sight of the Hawaiian wedding site, which it's just very convenient for everybody. Sonic runs off to deal with it on his own, and he runs across the waves to the Emerald Island, not Ireland, the island with the emerald on it. And he follows Robotnik and Knuckles as they go through a bunch of Raiders of the Lost Ark style traps, which are so derivative that the movie makes a point of joking about it. In a joke I did think was funny, Robotnik goes, "I don't want to die this day. Wait, it would be too derivative." And I was like, all right, movie, you got me with that one. Sonic bursts in, fights Knuckles. Robotnik, of course, double crosses Knuckles, steals the emerald, becomes a glowing power being, causes the island to collapse. We all knew this was going to happen, right, Dan?
I mean, you got to have the darkness before the dawn. Robotnik's gotta
and he
get
betrays Knuckles, and Knuckles is like, "I thought you wouldn't betray me because we're friends."
Yeah.
And Sonic and Knuckles, they each take turns saving each other from drowning. And on the beach, Sonic tells Knuckles his lessons about being a hero and the importance of finding a friends and family. They decide to team up. Back in Green Hills, Wade earlier discovered and arrested Stone. We don't need to go into that. Robotnik shows up. He has godlike electricity powers. The army surrounds the coffee shop. I'm not sure how they knew what was going on there. Maybe Wade called them. I don't know. So the secret agent commander and Tom and Maddie, they helicopter in. Tom and Maddie are now, I guess, deputized. They're now leaders of this organization, this assault on Robotnik, just in time to see Robotnik do what everybody does ever since Akira or Magneto. You rise up in the air with your arms outstretched, and then you move your arms to create telekinetic force that then disassembles machines and then rebuilds them into something. So he disassembles all the vehicles, turns them into a giant Robotnik mech, as mentioned earlier, just like in the games. The heroes show up, and this is the part of the movie I love to do the summary for, because I can basically just say, fight, 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 missiles, etc. Like the movie is like, Elliot, you're really tired. Here's 20 minutes of movie that you don't really need to summarize very much.
That's what it felt like to watch it to me. I'm like, okay, fight, missiles.
You're not even going to mention that when Stone doesn't remember how to pilot the vehicle or something, he pulls out the user's manual, and it is a classic, designed like a classic Sega video game manual.
I'm not going to mention that at all. It will go unmentioned in this episode.
I did like that. I enjoy that one got me. That bit of nostalgia. I was like, okay, I like that.
I guess that's true. If I was watching a Nintendo, because I was a Nintendo kid, if I was watching a Nintendo movie and they pulled out like an issue of Nintendo Power, or something, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah.
Because you're a Nintendo kid, just seeing it made you angry. You like broke your controller in your hand.
You're like, Mamma Mia, because you're a Nintendo kid.
Yeah, exactly. Mario. Yeah, I was like, it's a me, Nintendo kid, Link, Bubble Bobble, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Mega
Ice
Man,
climbers.
they call them. Excite Bike, Toe Jam and Earl. Although I think that was on both platforms. Anyway, we don't need to, I'm just going to talk about more Nintendo stuff. We don't need to do that. Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. Sonic's like, we need to work as a team. And it's like, well, what were you doing up to this point when you said you were going to be partners? Sonic's going to distract Robotnik because he knows Robotnik hates him the most, while Knuckles and Tails sneak into the mech. Sonic gets real beat up. Knuckles punches Robotnik, which causes the emerald to fall out of the mech.
Guys, there's a moment where, like, where they're standing there seeing this newly created, like, giant monster thing. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of like the end of Suicide Squad, where Idris Elba's facing down a sudden appearance of a giant monster thing. That's pretty cool, right? Is it cool for him, do you think, that he gets to do the same thing a couple times?
It in no way speaks to the creative bankruptcy of Hollywood that all movies operate the exact same way. Instead, that is the majesty of the story circle writing structure, which makes only perfect movies. But yeah, I bet Idris Elba was like, this is pretty funny that I did this in another movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure he marvels at the irony all the time.
Yeah, he's like, this reminds me of Stringer Bell's final scene in The Wire. I've done this so many times, faced off with an enemy who in their case was standing on stairs slightly above me. So they seemed bigger than me, even though Brother Mazone and Omar were smaller than me in real life. I'm a very tall man. I'm Idris Elba, of course. He often reminds people who he is while they're talking to him. Yeah. The guy he's talking to is like, I know, I'm your authorized biographer. You hired me to interview you and then write your memoir. Yeah, I just want to make sure you knew I was Idris Elba. No, I'm aware of it. Yeah, we've been working together for months now. I've lived with your family, really embedded with you. Yeah, I just want to make sure you knew I was Idris Elba.
That's a real life thing that he does.
Biographer character's getting a huge backstory. It's like a fucking Sonic character.
Well, Idris Elba's like, I just want to make sure you know who I am because I know you went and lived on the island of Elba for a few months to really get into my head. But that's not me. That's an island where Napoleon was exiled.
That was a mistake.
Yeah. So, anyway, Sonic, he's all beat up. He takes the emerald. Tom and Maddie, they help him briefly, and he's like, go, save yourself. And she goes, no, we're a family. And Robotnik steps on them with his giant mech, but the power of the emerald gives Sonic super golden glow ultra powers, and he saves them all. He defeats Robotnik's robot, seemingly killing Robotnik. And at the end, later on, the leader of the agent commander's like, well, I guess Robotnik disappeared. And it's like, it seems like he died in the wreckage. Like, I guess we're not going to get into that. Having saved the day, he uses his now godlike power to conjure a hot dog with everything on it, and then ejects the power from his body, sending it who knows where. Back to the emerald. I'm not sure.
Jean Grey to encounter it and take it on, I guess.
Take it on, so that she can eat the planet of the broccoli people. And he goes back to being a kid. Knuckles fixes the emerald shards by squeezing them really tight, the same way that Ferris Bueller says that Cameron could do with a lump of coal to turn it into a diamond. I can do 80s movie references too, guys.
Wow,
if that's what we're doing
impressed.
now,
Yeah.
that's what everything is related to. I can do that too, right? Jamelle, right?
I mean,
like in Ferris Bueller, when he says he's so
guy.
tight.
Hollywood.
We do it on the podcast quite a bit. But that's
do it. Dan, you have no idea what you just said.
Oh my God.
You have no idea what you just said.
Doesn't
You just
feel
said
good, does
do
it?
No.
Dan, you were talking about human excrement just now.
You
and you didn't
laughed
even mean
so
to.
hard.
So
at
embarrassed
me.
later on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd like to thank again New York Times opinion writer Jamelle Bouie for being on the episode with us today. So later, so now they decide they're going to join forces to forever protect the Master Emerald. Later, who knows how many days or years later, Sonic is teaching Tails and Knuckles how to play baseball. Knuckles has some funny lines here. It's funny, anytime someone is like a space warrior who's learning a human sport, the jokes write themselves. Tom is happy that Sonic has friends now. He keeps calling them his squad, right, or whatever, which I don't like, or his wingman or whatever. I don't like it. I don't like that. And Sonic calls Tom Dad, which is very. I have to assume in the moment is touching, but it's weird when a CGI blue hedgehog from another dimension calls you Dad. Like is this the family
weird
that
the first
Tom
time,
saw
Elliot,
himself having?
but over the years.
It was less weird than when Jim Carrey yelled it while sliding under a closing door and he said, "Make room for Daddy," or something.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't like that.
That was pretty weird.
Yeah. And especially because I don't like it because it's a reference to a thing from before the 1980s, which makes me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Was there culture then? I don't know, and I don't want to know. But I wish the movie then had cut to Tom imagining Sonic's future as his son, where he's like seeing him graduate from college. He's walking him down the aisle at his Jewish wedding because he's marrying a Jewish woman.
And
both parents walk
raising
down
Arizona is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, basically he's an old man and Sonic's half hedgehog, half human hybrid children are sitting around the table. You know?
Oh, gross.
Just like people with like big spiky blue hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Or very small humans.
Oh God.
Thank you.
Like small pink
horrifying.
hedgehogs.
Yeah. You know what?
Amazing.
Every option is worse than the one before.
I love it. So
And the
they
one
all
that
go
looks
for
like
ice cream.
Shrek.
They almost, that's the one they don't talk about, but everyone knows the truth about it, they all go out for ice cream, and they almost leave the Master Emerald behind. The thing that they just promised they would protect with their lives to the very end, they almost lost within moments. And then, I know, Stuart, you don't stay for these, but there's a mid-credit scene. That's right.
What?
The secret agent commander, he's told, as Jamelle said, they've discovered a 50-year-old hidden government facility, Project Shadow, and a containment energy pod opens, and Shadow the Hedgehog opens his eyes, and I was confronted with the knowledge in myself that I don't know who Shadow is, and I don't.
Yeah.
I had no context for this reveal.
Oh man, Jamelle's gearing up.
I can see the hands go to the keyboard.
There's a reason he's the Hedgehog correspondent. Jamelle, tell me about Shadow the Hedgehog.
So Shadow the Hedgehog first appears in Sonic Adventure 2 from 2001, and he's like basically he's like Sonic's Wario, basically.
Oh,
okay.
Cool. So I
he's
like
bad
him
or
already.
he's just misunderstood.
Sort of a Wannick, if you will.
He is so okay. So Wario, as we all know, as we're all aware, is like greed and avarice incarnate, and really is not neither like a villain.
We know where he was on January 6th.
Oh, for sure. There's a reason that he's
Selling
been in hiding
shirts outside of the event.
That's right. That's right. Wow.
This election, we did a win.
But so Shadow isn't like so Wario is only an antagonist insofar that Mario gets in the way of Wario trying to get those coins. Shadow is more like an anti-hero type who like is an antagonist to the extent that like Sonic's attempt to do something heroic interferes with Shadow's attempt to do something heroic.
Oh,
but he's not like
he's
not like evil. He's just sort of,
He's like the Hot Topic version of Sonic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's the Sonic that the goths are really into.
I'm so much more interested in Sonic lore when it comes from Jamelle rather than Sonic 2.
Yeah, I would have really loved it if they had to keep going to explainers that you were doing, Jamelle. You're like,
who's that director who I don't like?
Adam McKay.
Adam McKay, there we go.
Yeah.
Like an Adam McKay movie.
They're like,
now we're going to cut the New York Times opinion columnist Jamelle Bouie to talk Shadow the Hedgehog. And I'm in a hot tub.
You're in a ballad. Yeah.
Now, imagine Sonic the Hedgehog and Shadow the Hedgehog are the deficit and the debt. Let me explain to you. Actually, that would make those. I want to see the Big Short Jamelle cut where you're the person who's explaining each of the things, and by the end of the movie, you're like, I don't know, just dramatize this information. Like it's not helpful. It's not helpful to be told this way.
Listen. I'm an adult. I can understand exposition in a film. You can just have a character say it. I don't need Margot Robbie.
The one that got what was also funny to me was that they were like Margot Robbie in a hot tub, and I was like, well, this is the most covered up I think I've ever seen Margot Robbie in a movie. So the idea that this is like a sexier way to explain it. But anyway, it was later on when they're like, they're finding the prospectuses littering the lobby of that building, and they're like, oh, look at these numbers. And they turn to the camera and go, this isn't really how we found this information. Really, we did this other thing. But anyway, we'll go back to it here. And I'm like, well, then if you're going to tell me, then just show me them doing it. You know, I don't, I
feel like
that
that stuff is so much more charming in 24-hour party people or something.
Yes.
Which is at least based on like a bunch of accounts and, drugged up weirdos telling these stories.
And also, I mean, it's when you have Steve Coogan doing it, it's instantly more entertaining.
Yes. If you're
But also when the guy from the Buzzcocks is like, I don't remember that happening. Like that's when you have the real person doing it. Yeah.
If you're gonna do this at all, which you don't have to, there's no one's gonna make you put that in your movie. But if you're gonna do it at all, I like that better than the explainers. I like the acknowledgement. Like, look, this isn't exactly how we did it, but for the purpose of the movie, like I kind of because I don't know. I get so mad at movies on the other end of things where they're just like, we're gonna basically whole cloth make up this thing and then put inspired by a true story at the beginning and then just be like, well, I guess I can't argue with the idea that it was inspired by that.
Do you prefer inspired by a true story over some like bullshit quippy thing like, based on truth and lies?
I don't know, because I did when The Great started, I did like where it says what was it? It was like a sometimes true story. I liked that.
Well,
then I
at
got
least
tired
The
of it
Great,
eventually.
but The Great also has some really fun performances, and Nicholas Hoult is like the most charming fucking gremlin creep you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love him.
The most
I feel like I should mention one other thing about Shadow. He loves to use guns.
Please.
Yeah, this is the time.
He loves to use what? Sorry.
In his games, he uses guns. He shoots people.
Oh, so he's like the Punisher to Sonic Spider-Man. I don't like that. No, I don't like that. God
damn it. He's so cool.
Sonic is like
and his name is
Shadow? Oh, and his name's Shadow.
There's no reason to have a gun in a Sonic game. That's bonkers. Come on.
Oh my God.
I'm looking at a still here from 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog, and he has like an Uzi.
Fucking A, an Uzi. That shoots so many bullets.
Yeah, but it doesn't last that long. They run out really fast.
Oh, he probably has another one, guys.
Now, what if an Uzi shot ooze? The world would be a better place, right?
Yeah, that's actually right.
We'd have all these mutants running around.
Like Ivan Ooze or like Secret of the Ooze.
Like Secret of the Ooze. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 80s references. So I guess
or like the goo guns from Ghostbusters 2, like that sort of shit.
Now,
a goo gun that shoots goo gone.
Yeah,
it seems like it's causing its own problem there. Like that's a solution in search of something. Now, when you said goo guns, I thought you said dugongs, and I was like a manatee.
Yeah. Do you remember them from Ghostbusters 2? It's crazy.
That's Ghostbusters 2, where they go to the aquarium.
Vigo did not like them.
No.
Well, I think that's enough gibberish to justify our value in this year's Max Fun Drive. We should move on to
Final judgments.
Final judgments, whether this is a good, bad movie, a bad movie, a movie we kind of like. I'm going to really quickly say that I did not care for this film. The longer we do this, the more I find that the films that really irritate me are the ones that just feel like just kind of like the most pro forma versions of the movies that you would make out of, say, a property, which is what this is. It's like, okay, we got to do a Sonic sequel. The first one we did, like, the obvious thing that everyone always does, like, oh, this character's in our real world, and now we're gonna like.
And he loves to party.
Dive into a bunch of impenetrable like bullshit that I don't like. I'm never given a reason to care about. I don't know. It just felt like the most bankrupt shit. I'm sorry for being more mean than usual, but I did not care for it.
Do you think it's possible that one of the screenwriters who worked on it had a spec script about a wedding and was like, I'm never going to be able to sell this script in Hollywood. I'm just going to shoehorn it into this Sonic sequel.
I hope to God that's what happened. I really want that to be the case, that they were just sort of like, you know what? We can add another 20 minutes to this movie.
This is the script I wrote for the Sundance Lab that I was a member of. Can I just get it here?
This is my New Gods screenplay.
Stuart, what do you have? Oh, yeah, Elliot,
Stuart, what do you think? No, Stuart, what do you think?
Well, first off, Elliot mentioned the idea of like a character coming to our world and loving to party. It's like, you're not going to bring somebody here and have them not like partying. Like, no, yeah, what is this like?
The waste.
I feel like Alf did it best. Why are we still chasing Alf? We can start having new ideas, you know?
Yeah, that's Alf. Alf is like if Rodney Dangerfield came to our world. Of course, he would love partying.
As opposed to staying on Planet Dangerfield where he lives. Hey, to bring you, Stuart, he's here. He's been here.
He is? What's he up
not
to?
Anymore, but
Not
he
anymore,
was.
no. Yeah, he was reincarnated as a dog briefly. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I like that a number of people in this movie got paid to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
There were a couple of jokes that I thought were funny, mainly sight jokes, and it made me wonder, why don't they make like good like Looney Tunes movies with like live action elements too, like a Wile E. Coyote thing? But who knows?
They did. It's
That'll
called
never
Space Jam:
happen.
A New Legacy.
And then, but yeah, it's just so long. It's so long, and
So
it has
long.
so many. It takes so many extra steps that it doesn't need to. I don't understand the point of this. Who is this for? Okay, thanks.
I would say, similarly, it's like this could be a much worse movie. It's not like but it's just kind of there's no reason for it, and the reason for a movie like this is fun, but it kind of never achieves that level of fun. That being said, like if my kids were like, "Hey, you need to work for 2 hours. You're gonna show us Sonic the Hedgehog 2 to keep us busy," I wouldn't be against it the same way that I have recently started turning off TV shows in the middle of them when I've noticed my kids are watching stuff that I think is you know,
Yeah, stop letting them
bad for
watch fucking Blue Bloods, dude.
But each time I think it's going to be the one where they learn something important, you know. But
no. Laissez-faire, like I was brought up by television. Just let them absorb whatever the fuck.
That's the other thing I'm always torn because I'm like, well, when I was a kid, I did watch it whatever I wanted, and there was a lot of crap. Like I shouldn't be able to identify what episode of Saved by the Bell this is within the first 2 minutes for every episode, but I can. But I think it's not very good, but I wasn't offended by it. Not as offended as I was by the commercial for the Knuckles TV show, where I was like, is there nothing else in the world than IP? Like, really? So, Jamelle, tell me why we're wrong. Tell us why this is a great movie for all those Sonic heads, all the hedge heads out there.
Yeah, all you hedge heads out there, this is exactly what you're looking for. No, Elliot, as also a father, I very much have the kind of a similar reaction. Like, compared to some other kids' entertainment, this is like perfectly fine. It's like it's not offensive. It's not too dumb, right? It's not like egregiously stupid. So on that level, I was like fine with it. I remember kind of liking the first Sonic movie precisely because it felt like this throwback to the 90s, to like how you would do this kind of thing when I was a kid. This one, I guess maybe I was in a bad mood. I was like, I don't care for this.
Yeah.
Like a throwback is fun once, and then once this movie really feels like we have no new tricks. Like we're not, except we're adding more characters in the game. And even that first movie, I was like, I really loved seeing Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey stuff. And this one, I still enjoyed that somewhat, but by the end of the movie, it was really grating on me. And this is one of those movies where you can really see some of the parts where they threw in jokes off camera for moments that they didn't have jokes for before that didn't work. Like there's a point at the end where Jim Carrey has no lines that are actual dialogue and they're all just quips. And I was like, all right, so this movie is like, it's held together with string at this point. Like it's just.
We didn't even talk about the moment where Jim Carrey plays his leg like a guitar, and then they play like the opening riff for "Walk" by Pantera, and I'm like, oh, what? Okay,
because his robot's about to walk. I did like when he played his leg like a guitar, but that doesn't really go anywhere. It's just a thing he does for a moment, you know. But yeah, this is so we give it our highest recommendation. Show it to children, but don't watch it if you're an adult.
Or if you're stuck having to watch it with your kids, it's not going to be intolerable.
Oh, okay. Put it on the poster.
Not intolerable. Raves the New York Times.
Hey, and I'm back here talking about Max Fun Drive BOCO. I know what you're desperate for. You're like, Stuart, you told us about how important it is to support art that we love. You're probably interested in finding out about some swag, okay? So that's one of the great things about the Max Fun Drive. If you support or upgrade during this time period, it gives you access to a bunch of stuff. For one, our entire catalog of bonus content. Guys, we've been members of the Max Fun Network for years. We have made so much bonus material. We have done feature-length film commentaries of what? Bratz?
We did Bratz, we did Cats, we did the Country Bears, all of those, all your hits.
The first two rhymed. We also did
if only it was the
episodes where
Country Bats, that would have been the best.
Yeah.
That would have been great. Why not? We've done episodes where we do the classic Flophouse treatment, but apply it to television shows.
Mhm.
What in the world? We have done all kinds of stuff, including my personal favorite, the Flop Tales episodes, where I make Dan and Elliot and our friend Jubin play a role-playing game with me. And they make it seem like it's a huge hassle, but deep down, I think they love it. And they go on all kinds of adventures. There's ones where they play Dungeons and Dragons, but I think all those are in the Adventure Zone feed.
Yeah.
We have episodes where you guys go on like weird noir, weird boiled adventures dealing with aliens and whatnot.
The last episode of that ended with me with a bunch of Martian worms in my head that control my thoughts. I want to do more stories with that character.
You do have worms in your head.
Yeah.
Speaking of worms inside you, there were ones about where we were dogs.
Yes, that's true. Hopefully your characters don't have worms in them.
Yeah.
Those are personal favorites of mine where you guys are dogs.
That's it. Also, the ones where we're dogs, there's our editor producer Alex did a new theme song for those that my kids love to listen to all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the stuff that's available. Everybody who supports $5 a month or more has access to that, plus access to all the content from all the shows. There's tons of great stuff out there. It's really awesome. If you support, then there's some additional gifts. If you support at the $10 a month or more, you get access to a pin of your choice. Each show had a pin design. What's our pin design this year, guys?
It's Werner Herzog.
Classic Werner Herzog.
Of course, what he always has been known to say many times, I'm a bad whittle boy.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
This the scowling face of Werner Herzog with a big word balloon that says, I'm a bad whittle boy.
It is the perfect accessory if you want people to say, wait, what? Come on. There's some additional other cool swag. There's a bandana that serves as a chessboard, I believe. It's super cute. There's a bucket hat option if you want to look styling and not get too much sun on your face. There's also the maximum tote or the maximum bag, which is the biggest tote bag I've ever seen.
It's enormous. It's enormous. Yeah.
Large bag.
I feel like it doubles as a tent. I'd have to double check the
It's like carrying around the
specifics on
trunk
that.
of a car in a tote.
So there's all this cool stuff. That's if you're being strictly mercenary about it. So why don't you please support us? Get a hold of some of that swag. Head over to MaximumFun.org/join. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
Let's move on quickly to letters from listeners like you, the listener. This one is from Liam, last name withheld.
Liam,
who writes,
listener.
While listening to the Flophouse Mini number 99, I was surprised to find out that Elliot worked at the Barnes & Nobles in Chelsea around 2002. I also worked at that exact location around the same time. I worked in the cafe above the bookstore, but would often linger in the store after my shift. To bring the email back to the Flophouse at large, what do you consider to be a novel trope in movies that is underused or underrepresented? Liam, last name withheld. Now, he could be saying novel as in new, but I took it to mean, since it was a bookstore-related letter, a trope from novels, a trope from the written word that is not translated to movies that often, which is a difficult question. I am realizing as I'm putting it forth. Not that I didn't send it to you ahead of time, but I'm thinking about it. I'm having a hard time.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and you guys can obviously correct me, but maybe, and this is inspired by reading too many romance novels lately, but you don't see as many movies where that features two like main characters, and it cuts between their perspectives in a way that actually shows you their perspective, if that makes sense. I feel yeah.
I think similarly, what I was thinking was it's so much. I think better use is made of unreliable narrators in the same way in books than in movies. And one of the things that I liked about Tar so much is that it wasn't like, this is a crazy person and we're seeing their insane view of humanity. But there were times where you're like, I'm not quite sure that the perception I'm seeing this through, which is very much her perception, is totally on the level. Totally accurate,
right?
You know, and I really like that when they do such a good job there of like just giving you enough to doubt what you're seeing without it being bonkers or obvious. And I feel like that's something books do very well and movies are not always as good at.
You know what? You saying that reminded me of like walking out of Love Lies Bleeding, and I won't spoil the end to Love Lies Bleeding.
What happens to love? It's okay, right? It stands up and it is not bleeding.
I tell you, buddy.
But there were some people outside, like talking about it, like, "Whoa, what happened? Like, what?"
I would
What?"
stuff them in lockers.
And I was like,
after seeing that movie, I feel like 1,000,000 feet tall.
"No, I love it," but I was just like, "Okay, squares," was kind of my thought, where it's just like, you don't have to take everything in a movie literally just because it's presented to you. Sometimes a movie sort of can present the emotional reality, like the way something feels like to you, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to like make clear delineations of like, is this really happening the way we're seeing it or not, you know?
You're asking entirely too much of modern day moviegoers, Dan.
Possibly.
Who, you know, there's a lot of if the movie doesn't tell me exactly what the lesson of this movie is, then that's a plot hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, the labeling of so many different things as plot holes is a real problem. I think in internet movie discourse, especially where they're like, why didn't the characters do the most obvious solution first? That's a plot hole. Like, well, not really a plot hole. Like, if people rarely do the most obvious.
Why don't you do the most obvious solution first, sir? In your life.
I'm glad that you took it to them, Dan. That's good.
Yeah.
Throw it right back at them.
I'm trying to think. I don't read a ton of novels. I'm a Philistine. I think what works.
But you've read Dune, right?
I mean, I've read Dune, of course. Yeah.
Okay, good. Phew, so you've read the novel. Okay.
Other than the films of Paul Schrader, no one really does this sort of like, you know, narrator belittling themselves well in film. You know, like I'm thinking of the beginning of Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, which is I am a sick man, I am a wicked man. Like that's how the novel starts, and I want more movies to start like that, with the main character being like, I am the worst person alive.
You shouldn't finish watching this because I'm terrible.
I feel like that comes across better in print than it would in a movie where you'd be like, what's going on here?
I feel like Paul Giamatti could pull it off, though. I think that's like a serious Giamatti line.
A movie that would open with Paul Giamatti looking at himself in the mirror, going like, "What are you even thinking, you piece of shit? You're an idiot." Like I'm in with that movie.
Yeah.
Like I gotta watch it. I gotta see who this guy is. Yeah. It's like I guess she's not the main character, but in Michael Clayton, Tilda Swinton does that, right? She's like angry at herself in the
that's
mirror.
right. Yeah.
Oh man.
But you're right. Paul Schrader does it
What
best.
a movie.
Yeah, what a movie. Paul Schrader, I think because Paul Schrader knows that he's a jerk.
Yeah. Because Paul Schrader is like America's like last living, like, I don't know, like Calvinist settler, you know?
There was this New Yorker article about him like last year, and he's talking about his philosophy of only fucking up. You never deal with anybody who's below you. You only go up. So you always have to be constantly climbing socially and professionally. And he goes, of course, it works, but of course it leaves a bad impression. It's like, yeah,
because you're being an asshole.
But the movies he comes, I mean, like, but then you have a movie like First Reformed, where the main character is not an asshole, but he has that amazing doubt and like self-loathing, even if he doesn't necessarily deserve it. And what
one of the top 10 movies of the century, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's an amazing movie, not a joke.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
Yeah, what a great movie. That won a lot of Academy Awards, right?
Oh, fun fact! I saw that right before I went to one of your guys' shows, like 2018. My wife and I. We had like 3 hours between what we were doing and your show, and I was like, let's go see a movie. And I was like, I'm a new Paul Schrader. We'll just like pop in there and see that.
This will be fun.
Then we came out and we were like, we got to go see a comedy show.
I feel like you told us that. I'm like, I've heard it's good, but now having seen it, that's a tonal shift.
Yeah, that's a big tonal
I feel
shift.
better about you sitting stone faced through our show after that. This second letter is from John, last name withheld, who writes, "Hi all, I got $2 American from Nielsen to answer their poll about what and how I consume media. I put the Flophouse down as my main podcast.
Yes.
My family was a Nielsen family when I was a kid, and it involved the installation of a set-top box. This was all web. We've arrived. I'll hang up and listen. Well, thank you for like I wasn't aware that the Nielsen's were now
Doing podcasts.
measuring podcasts, but now that I know, I think our mission is clear. Everyone out there with access to any sort of Nielsen influence, put the Flophouse down, get us up there on the ratings. So I don't know, at upfronts we can ask for. I don't know how it'll work.
I'm just glad that there's yet another metric that I can use to measure my disappointment in myself. That I can use to compare myself to other people and see that I'm not measuring up to them. That's great. I'm glad.
Or
it's especially weird for me because I grew up in a Nelson family. Of course, my family was in the band Nelson. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to either measure that or sort of our slide, from semi-relevance to irrelevance.
I don't know about even semi-relevance.
You could always measure your height or something to feel better about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right, Stu. You're right. That's a number that always
that's
measures
a metric
up well
that
against
all
other
men
people.
like to measure.
Where do you think it started, Stu? Where do you think this neuroses started with, Stu?
Whoops.
I've told the story many times about someone I went to elementary school with has since become a political commentator, and she tweeted out a picture of our first grade class, and I was so much smaller than the other kids that you could I was just kind of like a head hidden behind like something very low, and I was like
E.T. in a closet of Steffi's.
Exactly. I was like, I really was a small kid. This is no wonder I've always felt inadequate. Oh, well. No wonder I've always had to prove myself to be the smartest one in the room, constantly interrupting my co-hosts, not letting them talk, saying jokes that aren't funny just to annoy people.
Yeah.
This has been the
wow, we really figured some stuff out.
Wow, that really made some progress in this session. I appreciate it, guys. How much do I owe you?
We'll handle it off, Mike. Let's move on to recommendations of movies we saw recently, stuff that might be more worth your time, perhaps, than Sonic 2, unless you're a big Sonic fan, in which case, do what you like.
Yeah,
we're not the last
eat
word.
Some chili dogs.
If you like Sonic 2, God love you. Like, don't feel like we're trying to insult you personally. We're just a podcast.
Dan's extra frightened of Sonic fans on the internet.
Yeah.
I just know that.
What happened after the last Sonic episode, Dan? Did they come after you?
No, but there was a lot of people after Super Mario Brothers that are like, what's the problem? It's just, I'm like, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, my children. They still say to me, why did you not like that movie, Dad?
We're just talking about a personal taste or view on things. It doesn't have anything. Anyway.
Listen, I think if you don't like Sonic, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
It was going to be brutal, though.
It's going to be terrible. If you don't like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, or if you do like it, I think it's a better way to put it. If you do like it, I don't want to talk to you. Get out of here.
Oh, wow. Dismiss. Stuart, why don't you go first for once? Let's switch it up.
I'm gonna. Hey, Dan, we saw a movie together. Can I recommend it?
Yeah, I was wondering whether you might. That's part of why.
Heck yeah. I'm gonna recommend a little horror movie that's playing in theaters right now called Immaculate, starring Sydney Sweeney. It's a trim, 89 minutes? Oh, perfect.
What a length.
Out, done. It is a little bit nunsploitation. It is about a young American nun who goes to a kind of out-of-the-way, kind of mysterious convent and gets involved in some bad stuff. And there's definitely a moment. It's kind of slow, and it doesn't really show its. I mean, it kind of telegraphs the mystery a little bit, but it doesn't kind of show its hand as to what the kind of movie it's going to be until right near the end. Then you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Thumbs up. So yeah, I don't want to go into it too much, but if you like a big fun ending, watch it. It's cool.
I mean, the ending's great, but I don't want to undersell the rest because what part of what worked effectively for me watching it was there's sort of a cold open that lets you know, of course, something's going on.
Yeah.
But the movie...
Something's got to give.
The movie, unlike a lot of sort of, I don't know, mid-budget horror that gets put out there, it doesn't telegraph completely oh, this convent is a totally evil place with evil shit going down all the time. You can kind of... You see the workings of it. You can understand how people of faith might come in here with good intentions, and before you see what those good intentions have led to and what the nature of the horror is. And it's I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's fun. Immaculate.
I will also recommend a horror movie I watched last night, late at night on Shudder. I watched Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker. Kind of an oddball horror movie with a lot of element. It's sort of about a weird familial relationship of an aunt and her nephew. It's also about like the villain in it is a homophobic police officer, which was a surprisingly progressive thing to see in a horror movie of that era. It's from the 80s. It's got this vibe that I like from sort of a lot of these lower budget horror movies of the time, where it has a certain flatness to the direction because it's kind of this cheaper movie, but that combined with how tawdry the elements of it are make it feel like a after school special has sort of gone off the rails and gotten really weird and gross. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a perfect, like, kind of out there oddball 80s slasher that's been kind of underseen.
Yeah.
Speaking of horror movies that are short, I've got a movie that's even shorter than 89 minutes, and it's about the horror of fashion gone wrong. That's right, everybody. It is the 1976 adaptation of the story Bernice Bobs Her Hair by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This was done for the PBS show The American Short Story, and it was directed by Joan Micklin Silver. And Shelley Duvall is in it as the titular Bernice, and Veronica Cartwright is the cousin that she is visiting. And Veronica Cartwright this is the 1920s, the Roaring 20s. Veronica Cartwright is the party girl. Bernice wants to live that life and be attracted to the boys, and she makes the daring promise that she is going to bob her hair, and it becomes the talk of the town. Everyone wants to know if it's going to happen. Bud Cort is in it. He's also really funny in it, and I found it just to be like a really funny little, like, not chamber play exactly, but a funny piece of kind of nostalgia filmmaking, but it's the 70s being nostalgic for the 20s, and I really enjoyed it. So I saw it on Canopy, which is the free service you can use through your library if your library subscribes, and it was really fun. It's called Bernice Bobs Her Hair. It's like 45 minutes long. Why not go watch it? I enjoyed it. And
Jamelle?
I rewatched over the weekend James L. Brooks's 87 movie Broadcast News, which I'm saying this as a journalist, whatever. It's a movie that I absolutely love, and I really had a great time watching it again. If you've never seen it, it concerns three reporters, news people. Holly Hunter plays a news producer for a sort of a national television news show. Albert Brooks plays her reporter colleague, who's sort of prickly and a little unpleasant, but very brilliant. And then William Hurt plays the kind of news anchor that is being trained to kind of take over. Young, talented, maybe a little bit unethical. And it's both like a love triangle kind of film between the three, but I think it's also just like a great film about the intensity and emotion of like being in a workplace and doing something collectively that you care about, and how that sort of like interacts with your personal life and interacts with sort of like how you relate to other people. I don't know. I love the movie. I think Holly Hunter is absolutely wonderful in it. It's like one of my favorites of that decade, but then like one of my favorites, period.
That's a great movie. I'm going to set aside the fact that we are once again talking about 80s movies. That movie helped me personally, because when I was a segment producer at The Daily Show, I was trying to explain to my dad what my job was like. And he was like, is it like in broadcast news when she's running through the station with the tape and she's got to get it to them right on time? And I was like, yeah, it is kind of like that. I do run through the halls with tapes. So it really helped him to visualize what my life was like in a way that I didn't expect.
And I watched the Criterion Blu-ray. That's how I watched it. So highly recommend that Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Jamelle, thank you very much for being here. I know we got to get you out of here because you're busy. Before we go, is there anything you want to plug?
My column at the Times, if you don't like the Times, that's cool too. If you do read the Times, my column is usually every Tuesday and Friday, and I have a Saturday newsletter. And then my podcast with my buddy John Gans, Unclear and Present Danger, where we watch the political and military thrillers of the post-Cold War era and kind of talk about them, historicize them a bit. I think our next movie we're doing is Hackers from 95. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That's a
Hack
special
the
one.
world, people.
1995 was when the two best hacker movies came out, Hackers and the Net.
And the
One
Net.
special year.
We've already done the Net, which was a fun episode. But Hackers is quite special. So that's our next episode. Check us out.
Hey, this is Stuart just chiming in one last time. This marks the end of yet another Max Fun Drive. Thank you so much. It's been a blast. I've had a ton of fun with these guys recording some extra shows. I've had a ton of fun recording extra material on my Twitch channel where I painted a model for some reason and chatted it up. The Max Fun Drive means a lot to me, and I can't express how big a part of my life Max Fun supporters are. I've gone through a number of hard times over the last couple of years. I know my co-hosts have gone through hard times, and it's really great to me to know that there are people out there who have supported my show financially and helped me get through some of those hard times. It's been one of the great joys of my life that a thing that I love to do that I think is worthwhile, I have found an audience who believes the same. So thank you so much. If you haven't had a chance yet, head over to MaximumFun.org/join and support our show. If you are already a supporter, I can't stress this enough. You mean the world to me. Thank you.
I'll just add, thanks to all who have listened. Thanks to all who have given. Thanks to all that continue to support us. It's just wonderful to know that you're all out there. You're all with us. You're all helping us out, and we hope that we help you out in our small way, doing dumb stuff. But for this episode of The Flophouse, I'd like to sign off, say thank you to our producer, Alex Smith, and to identify ourselves one last time, I have been Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
And I'm Elliot Kalin.
Bye!
On this episode, we discuss Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Too fast, too furry. Us.
I think that's actually
That was
probably
like
one
a
of the taglines.
that was like a
Yeah, it
Chuck
probably
Jones.
is.
Yeah,
late.
I would be shocked if that wasn't part of
I think
the
that
pitch.
was the first Wile E. Coyote cartoon, actually. All right, let me do another one. How about do this?
Okay.
Maximum Fun
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
directly
by you.